Jay here for Stretford Paddock, that's Joe Smith, and this is a special video looking at Joshua Zirkzee, who it looks as though is going to be announced as a Manchester United player anytime soon. He may already have been announced by the time you're watching this video. We're going to get into a little bit more detail into what he's about, what's he good at, what's he not so good at, what have people been saying about him. So you've been doing your research on Joshua Zirkzee, haven't you? So we'll get into all that. First of all though, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe and get involved in the comments in the chat. We want to know what you guys think about the striker too. So Joe, let's start with the positives. Yeah, we're going to get this player. We might have already got him. What can we look forward to? What are the most exciting traits that this player's got that he can bring to the Manchester United side?
So I think he can bring quite a lot. And initially, the first thing you're going to notice, for anyone who's not seen him play, when you do see him play, he's big. He's 6'4". He's a big guy. He's heavy. He's strong. He's quick. He's got a lot of that sort of. We'll get into the Zlatan comparisons in a little bit, but he's almost got that kind of presence to him. Not quite, no one's Zlatan, but he's a very, very big guy, and he's got that sort of Dutch style technicality as well. And this combination of technicality and size is something that is kind of a constant throughout what people say about him, what he says about himself. This is the sort of defining thing about him. He's big, but he's not some big, heavy, clunky, the ball's bouncing off him all the time kind of player.
You could argue he got the job on a technicality.
He got the job on his technicality, right. He did. And he's spoken about this at great length, which we'll get into in just a minute. Let's start with some of the overall stats. Like I said, 23 years old, 6'4". Look at his goal scoring numbers. We'll start there because these are the kind of the big pillars of a striker, aren't they? So last season, it was 37 appearances, 12 goals, 7 assists. The year before that, not very good at all. Only 21 appearances and 2 goals, 2 assists in that time as well. And 2021-22, 51 appearances in all competitions, 18 goals, 13 assists. Now, they're the sort of numbers that got him that move to Bologna in the first place.
So, can we explain why there was a bit of a dip then? Because it seems to have gone one way, then the other, then one way again.
Yes.
Well, usually with a young striker, it tends to move in the sort of upwards trajectory.
Yeah. So, a lot of it comes down to the move that he made to Bologna. Which didn't really work to start with. Then they got a new manager in. Obviously, Thiago Motta was there last season, turned them around, played a different style, played him in a different system, and we've gone back to him being this kind of creative outlet as well. He's very, very good on the ball. We'll get into the numbers a little bit, but I think the reason basically is that he sort of picked up again is that he's found a manager and a system that gave him confidence and allowed him to sort of implement his style.
It's not sort of beyond the realms of possibility that happens with players. We see players have peaks and troughs, don't we? We've seen it before. We've seen players being written off. People say, oh, he's not quite the player we thought he was going to be. You've seen top-level players, the likes of De Bruyne, the likes of Salah, where they left Chelsea or whatever, and it's like, oh, it's not quite worked out, and then they go and rejuvenate themselves. So I'm not too concerned over that, especially when you explain it. What else can you tell us about him that's a sort of a positive?
So let's get into some of the specifics then. Obviously, one thing he's very good at, well, I say one thing, the whole point is that it's not just one thing. So in terms of the runs that he likes to make, it's a sort of varied combination of sort of running in behind, coming short, taking players out wide. Like, he likes to do everything. He's just as comfortable holding the ball up with a centre back behind him as he is turning his man and getting him behind, running through onto through balls. He's very much a sort of varied striker, and you see that in the numbers. One thing he's absolutely exceptional at is his ability on the ball for a number 9, although he describes himself as a sort of 9.5 because of that ability to pass the ball. So in terms of some of the sort of raw stats, his pass completion, his passes attempted, his total passing distance, his passes completed, long, short and medium passes, his carries with the ball, his touches on the ball, all the like ball to feet kind of player with the ball at his feet. He's in the 75th percentile or above on all of those. He's very, very well rounded. He loves having the ball at his feet. His dribbling numbers are excellent as well. He's not someone that loses the ball very quickly. His total carries and carrying distance are both in the top 22% as well. His carries into the final third, so he gets the ball in the middle third and takes into the final third for his team, are in the top 16 percentile as well. So he's very, very good at all of these things. And you see big striker, 6'4", you think he's getting on the end of stuff, or he's elbowing his defender and he's rolling. He likes receiving the ball to feet, and not just receiving the ball to feet, turning with it and running with it. You see, if you watch any of his highlights, you watch him play, he gets the ball often, in counter-attack situations. He'll receive the ball in his own half and dribble into the opposition half. He's not the sort of player who likes to get the ball, hold it up, and then lay it off all the time. He's someone that likes to have the ball at his feet, to dribble with the ball at his feet as well. And another thing that's massive as well and we can sort of extrapolate generalities from this, is his defensive work.
Okay.
His tackles and his interceptions and tackles are all sort of in the top 20% for strikers. His dribblers tackled as well, so people trying to play out from the back is in the top 10%. He's very, very good at winning the ball back, which suggests to me, if he's tackling people, if he's intercepting the ball, he's willing to work hard. Because, you know, no offence to Cristiano Ronaldo or, you know, players like that who we've had in the past, but he wasn't going to win the ball back for you kind of player. We saw that in the article in The Athletic where, you know, United even tailored their pressing system so Ronaldo had to do less running and less tackling. Whereas Joshua Zirkzee is very, very keen and willing to win the ball back for his team, which I think suggests that he's very good as a system player. He's not just I'm all about me. Yes, the numbers in terms of raw goals and assists aren't incredible, but you look at behind the scenes a little bit, and he's someone that's willing to do the dirty work for Man United, which I think we absolutely are in desperate need of.
What is it Ralph Ragnick said? It's pressing is like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. You either press or you don't. You can't a little bit press, just like you can't be a little bit pregnant. So if he is going to fit into a system where we do press, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You've given us the smooth. What about the rough? What is it that worries you somewhat about him? Or you could be a little bit concerned. Oh, I hate on the kid before he's even kicked a ball for us, but it's fair to look at things you might, you know, question.
We need to see a balance, don't we? And if I'm honest, my worry about him is his goal scoring.
Okay.
In terms of just goals, he's in the bottom 37% of strikers. So he's poorer than average. His shots on target is in the bottom 17% of strikers. His goals per shot, so basically how clinical is he, is in the bottom 29%.
Right.
So he's someone that his goal scoring ability can probably be sort of called into question a little bit. You know, all of his shooting numbers aren't particularly good. His expected goals is in the bottom 14% of strikers across Europe's top 5 leagues. So and his sort of expected goals per shot, which is basically how good is each shot he's taking, is in the bottom 5%. So that's something that needs to be worked on. Where he's taking his shots from, that might be something that needs looking at. Maybe he's just not very clinical. Maybe, you know, the non-expected goals per shot, which is basically the quality of shots you're taking. Because it almost, whether he scored them or not, doesn't affect this stat, if you know what I mean. So it basically says, are you taking shots from good areas, yes or no? And that says to me he isn't, which is something that you can learn. So if you want to be on the positive side here, I think we spoke about it on the podcast a couple of years ago, didn't he, René Meulenstein? The work he did with Cristiano Ronaldo, where he showed him a penalty box and said, here's where you shoot from, the lanes alongside the 6-yard box up to the edge of the 18, and here's where you don't shoot from, out wide, outside of the box. If we can get him taking better quality shots, you'll see those goals go higher and higher, because sometimes Rashford had a similar thing. He always wanted to shoot from 20 yards out, when actually, if you can take an extra touch and get inside the 18, all of a sudden the chance of that shot going in doubles, and you end up you're going from 17 goals a season to 30 goals a season.
If only we had a prolific striker, legendary striker who could come in, possibly a Dutch one as well, would be even better.
So there's no language.
To work with him and help him, you know, to become a better finisher and to take better chances or to make the most of his chances. It's just a shame that, isn't it? We haven't got someone like a Ruud van Nistelrooy. I was just
going to say, a Dutch legend like Ruud van Nistelrooy, if he was in the coaching setup, you'd probably get the best out of him. But alas.
Do you think that's, I know we don't know for a fact, but do you think that is perhaps why we've not seen any of him at the Euros? Do you think that's why he's not a player that Ronald Koeman turns to, because of the issues you've raised there?
I think Koeman's doing what a lot of managers are doing, which is going for experience at the Euros.
Yeah.
You see almost everyone do it. There's a reason why Giroud's France's top all-time goal scorer. It's not because he's the best, but it's because you know what you're getting. Yeah. Weghorst isn't the best striker, but you sort of know what you're getting.
He does a job for him.
And he does a job for the Netherlands.
To be fair to him.
This guy's a little bit more unproven. He's never really been a cemented number one player in the Dutch team. You've got Memphis Depay starting ahead of him. But a lot of people have been sort of clamouring for Zirkzee to start ahead of Memphis. But again, they're almost in the same situation that England are, which is they keep winning.
Yeah.
So you're not going to change it, even if it's uninspiring, even the performances aren't great. You got outplayed by Turkey for 70 minutes, but you won the game. So what am I going to do? Change your winning formula? I think he's been a little bit unlucky. And also, let's not forget, he's only 23. So he's someone that's on the up. Yeah. He's playing for a relatively small club in Bologna who have massively overachieved this season, but he's not a big name across Europe.
No.
You know, someone like Memphis Depay has been at United, has been at Barcelona, he's been at big teams. It's hard to displace someone like that from a squad, especially if you're a young guy who's only really had a couple of good seasons.
No, definitely. And obviously Cody Gakpo's another attacker for them who's done well in terms of goals.
Yeah.
And has done well in a couple of tournaments now. What are people saying about him now? Just finally, what's the sort of the experts or the people that know him best, what have they said about him?
Yeah, so he's spoken himself about what he is as a player. And he's talked a lot about playing in the cages, playing sort of street football, all of these five-a-side pitches that you see across the Netherlands. He's kind of said, it makes you tough. You have to be smarter. You have to find a way to keep up with the guys that are bigger and stronger than you. I learned on the streets, and that's where creativity comes to life. Thiago Motta, his manager last season, said his idols are Zlatan Ibrahimovic, like we mentioned, and Gabriel Batistuta, who are two excellent players, but I see him play day to day. He reminds me of Ronaldinho I played with at Barcelona, but I cannot compare him to anyone. He's just Joshua, and he's special. He also said, Motta again, talking about Zirkzee, he said there are forwards who think only about goals, but not Joshua. He has a big heart, and that makes the difference. Now, that's one way of being a bit polite about the fact that he's not very prolific.
Yeah.
On one hand, a striker's not going to say it's crap, he needs to start scoring. But on the other hand, there has been a lot of talk about him being sort of unselfish in front of goal, him being someone that looks for others, his build-up play. We said about his passing stats, we've been through those exceptional passing stats. He's someone that, whilst his actual assist numbers aren't great, in the build-up play, in looking for others, in playing the ball out wide to the other wingers and attackers and them getting it into maybe Højlund, for instance, I think that's where he'll shine, in that build-up phase where sometimes it breaks down for United at the minute.
I just wanted to ask you this, just finally. Do you see him being a backup to Højlund then? Do you see him being someone who, if Højlund's not available, if you need to give him a breather, you bring in Zirkzee, or do you think there's a way that the two can play together?
I think mostly I see it as a sort of more rotation than backup.
Okay.
Because I think we saw with Højlund last season, he's a good striker, he's a good finisher, but there was a couple of injuries there, and also he was still getting up to the pace of the Premier League.
Yeah. He was kept in the side even when he'd gone like 13, 14 games without a goal or whatever in the Premier League, and he was scoring in the Champions League, when maybe he needed a bit of a break.
Yeah, and I think this thing of like you having one striker who plays every week and then the backup that only plays when they're injured is a myth. We've spoken about this no end of times. Alvarez got 40 appearances, the year Haaland broke the record for most goals in a Premier League season. Alvarez played 40 times for City that season. And what was it, 17 goals he got himself? 40 appearances isn't a backup, isn't in case of emergencies. This guy could feasibly get 40 appearances for United next season, and Højlund could get 45. And he's the backup. I think he's going to play loads.
That's a good point, because there's been times when you can see Højlund's knackered.
Yeah.
And he's still you look on the bench and we just had a load of children. So it's not been ideal. So that does make a lot of sense.
And I think at times as well, we could even see them play together. Zirkzee's mentioned in the past, he likes playing in a sort of two up top system. You could even see a Bruno out wide in certain games, maybe after half time, or if United are struggling, we could maybe switch to a 4-4-2. Especially if you've got someone...
Don't promise me that, honestly. That would be...
You'd love that, wouldn't you?
From heaven, that.
Your 90s
the golden
sort
era
of brain just kicking in.
Get Kanchelskis and Lee Sharp down them wings.
But if you've got someone a bit more physical, a bit more sort of robust in the middle, like Ugarte or whoever we're linked with, I could see 4-4-2 at times. You're playing Zirkzee and Højlund up front, maybe Bruno on the right. Even, God forbid, Bruno gets a rest. I think he will be a sort of backup in quotes, but if he plays 30 or 40 games next season, even as a backup, don't be surprised.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Joe. Looking forward to seeing Joshua Zirkzee. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. That's been Joe Smith. I'm Jay Marty. This has been a video looking at United's new striker, hopefully, eventually. Thanks for watching.